The human touch is the most important part of any business. We're all salespeople. The dentist is a salesperson, the TCO is a salesperson, the receptionist is a salesperson. I think the word sales just is automatically associated with a cold caller. 90% of the people that we speak to are very, very focused on one thing, and that's maximizing their revenue.
So most clinics, whether you're an aesthetic clinic or whether you're a dental clinic, have a website, they'll have an Instagram, a Facebook page, maybe you'll have, a WhatsApp profile. You'll also probably have a contact form on your website, and you'll have an email inbox that you receive emails into. A lot of clinics really struggle to stay on top of that. And more importantly, when they're spending money on advertising, they struggle to understand if that advertising is actually working, and if so, which campaigns are working. Now, today we have a super interesting guest in today, and his name is Adam Smith. He's the co-founder of Boxy and Inquirybot and Beie, and he's a familiar face amongst many of you in the dental and aesthetics community. Adam and his colleagues have built an incredible platform to help clinics fill that gap. Not only does it help clinic owners stay on top of all the different communication channels that patients use to reach out to them, it also gives clear visibility to practice owners which campaigns are working, which ones are converting, and which ones aren't. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Adam Smith today, who's tackling this problem head on and helping dozens, if not hundreds of practice owners across the country level up their marketing, ROI, and patient lead management. Let's get into the show. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. The patient is always right. It's such a pleasure to have you here and appreciate you making the time.
Thank you for having me.
So you've done a few podcasts. We've done a little bit of stalking on you, and you're sort of on the circuit, as it were. So we've got some insights in terms of obviously your business and what you do, and we've worked together over the years. But I always just want to start with a quick rapid fire round, just to gut instincts, like what's your take? And we try to customize this to every guest because we have clinicians on the sofa, we have estheticians, we have dentists, we have other people from the industry. So just your first gut instinct response.
Cool, sounds good.
Automation or authenticity?
Authenticity.
Okay, good. Dental or aesthetics? Both are watching.
Dental.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Scaling fast or building slow and steady?
Slow and steady.
Okay, cool. Human touch or AI precision?
How quick can I answer these questions?
Well, you can elaborate if you want.
I'd like to elaborate on that.
Fine.
The human touch is the most important part of any business, but the need for automation is there where humans can't do something. It's there to offer assistance. And I think this businesses are too focused on pushing one way or the other. We need humans, no doubt at the moment, but we need authenticity of human, but the automation is going to assist.
Yeah, and I think one thing that struck me from the launch event last week, which was amazing, and many of the people watching would have either heard about it or would have been there. The common thread for me and the common takeaway was around humanizing or humanization of automation and AI, which is really, really interesting because that's people are taking AI into different directions. Mm-hmm. Some people are pushing to a completely automated AI solution. But I think when it comes to care, healthcare, patients making, life-changing decisions potentially, patients taking risk with their body or with their money, these are big decisions. For me, I'm on board with humanizing that. And I think the human touch and that empathy still remains the single most important thing. So that really struck a chord with me because any AI stuff that we've done has also always been around that. It's about augmenting the human touch rather than replacing it or automating it entirely. So that really, human touch, that makes sense. Website conversions or patient conversations?
I'd say patient conversations.
Fine. Okay. Doubling down on the human touch.
Yeah, the patient conversion is obviously, so the website conversion is obviously incredibly important, but the ability to convert any type of patient, wherever they've come from, into a conversation. And again, AI is going to be brilliant at this, but right now, someone that's trained brilliantly in sales a very dirty word in our industry, but someone that's trained in the right way should be able to have a conversation with someone and identify the right treatments for them, the right opportunities for them, and get far more revenue out of that person than a simple website conversion. And I think it's a handoff, isn't it, with all these things? So yeah, I'd still say the patient conversation.
I mean, you come from a sales and marketing background. I'm obviously from a marketing background. Sales is a dirty word in, more so in dentistry probably than aesthetics, but also in aesthetics. I guess aesthetics is a bit more, I think the clinicians are a bit more varied in terms of on the sort of one side you have people who perhaps aren't medically qualified. On the other side, you have people who are consultant grade, surgical, etc. So it's a bit a broader spectrum, I guess. Why do you think sales is a dirty word, and what is your take on that? Like how can clinicians reframe that? Because ultimately, everyone needs to sell. Everyone needs to charge for what they do, especially in private healthcare, in self-pay healthcare. Why is sales such a dirty word, and how can people get comfortable with the idea of selling?
I think people look at sales too simplistically, and I actually think there's a massive underestimation on what sales is. We're all salespeople. The dentist is a salesperson, the TCO is a salesperson, the receptionist is a salesperson. I think the word sales just is automatically associated with a cold caller, someone you've been hounded on the phone about something you haven't even bothered. In the kind of world we are at the moment, where our data is unfortunately everywhere, and we don't know how someone's got our data. I think that the word sales has been associated with that type of conversation. I think it's just an education. I think whether you call it something else, whether it's not sales, it's a consultancy, or it's at the end of the day, every conversation that anyone has in business is a sale. Whether that's a chatbot on your website, whether that's an ad that's been put out, you're engaging someone in a sales conversation, whether we like it or not. I think it's just an education thing, Derek, to be honest.
We'll go a little bit into your background in a second, but you came from outside of clinical professions. Golf being a big part of that, hospitality. I saw Golf Marketing University as well in our research, so I might ask you about that later.
Right.
But how was that a big difference for you? That sort of the aversion to sales in clinical professions versus, say, hospitality, where presumably people are a lot more comfortable with selling and grossing big amounts on.
Very much so, and I think it maybe is the level of service that or the type of service that we're giving, because it's medical. I think there is an element of a disassociation from everyone else. Because it's medical service, it's making someone's life better with surgery and things like that. But I think, again, any type of sale is supposed to make people's lives better, either short term or long term. Whether that's a booking at a nice restaurant, or if that's a hotel stay, it's to enlighten someone, it's to make their life better. So it's a sale at the end of the day. And I think where we came from with hospitality, as much as they're not great at selling, because it's so transactional as a business, they're not adverse to upselling. They're not adverse to getting into a sales conversation. Whereas dental industry, the cosmetic industry, it's deemed as a more consultative sale. So it was quite a difficult switch. We thought it'd be really easy to take a software, take it out of one industry and plonk it into another. And I think we said at the event that we thought we'd nailed it several times, and we hadn't. And actually, it was incredibly naive of us. So yeah, it was difficult to switch that up a little bit, and that's where I think our software has evolved so much, is that it's very much nurturing rather than bang consultation, bang booking, bang rescheduling, things like that. It's evolved to help this industry. So as much as sales is prevalent across any industry and needed, I think the way you sell and the way that you come across is different in those different industries, and I think that's the adaptation that we've had to make.
No, fair enough. So the rapid fire round always is.
Sorry, that wasn't very rapid fire.
No. It brings up interesting points and interesting conversations that are always worth digging into more and more. But you're obviously a familiar face amongst the dental community and the aesthetics community as well, the medical aesthetics community. For those of you who perhaps don't know you, how do you typically sort of introduce yourself? And let's start with that maybe.
Cool. As a individually or as from a business perspective?
Both. I mean,
So I'm one of the co-founders and directors of Boxy, Inquirybot, Beie, which I'm sure we'll get onto a bit later. And essentially, we're trying to create a software we've created a software to be the heartbeat of any practice. Now, we know that businesses have their patient management system, which is managing patients and helping and so forth. We're trying to create essentially the bubble that surrounds that to plug the gap where with regards to marketing, brand awareness, patient conversations, communication, re-engaging, all those types of things, but bring it all into one so that you haven't got multiple channels all over the place, multiple leads and communication and missing communication. We're trying to just fix the big gap. That, again, it's a dirty word, it's sales. It's helping businesses maximize their revenue through communication with their patients and potential patients.
Yeah. I think it's a massive gap. I mean, as a marketing agency on the one side of that equation, I think we obviously care a lot about how the leads we generate are nurtured, because that obviously has an impact on the patient experience, but also the ROI that the practice gets, and ultimately on how long we will end up working with someone.
Of course.
Because if it's working well and there's clear visibility and traceability and attribution there, then happy days. But if you don't know, you don't know. And, then you end up just having to rely on anecdotal evidence, which isn't always accurate, basically. So yeah, for us, it's always, whenever there's a player in the market who makes our life a little easier and how we interact with our clients, I mean, we always welcome that. And, since the beginning, Inquirybot and now to Boxly, it actually fills a really good gap that, candidly, as a marketing agency, it has to be filled, but I don't want to fill it because it's not my core business. It's not my core business to develop a CRM system and enable practice teams on how to use it and how, and that sort of thing. And so, the fact that gap is being addressed is, I think it helps everyone in the entire ecosystem, basically.
Absolutely. But being candid, we've spoke for years about this opportunity where we've talked on the podcast, but also worked together. And the software hasn't been ready, and the softwares out there haven't been ready, which you find businesses, marketing agencies going to white label solutions like Go High Level and using massive CRMs like HubSpot to fill this void, because there isn't a software out there, or doing it yourself. Like you said, you don't want to get involved in it, but you've had to, because we all know that, our client, they spend money on the marketing, they want to see the return of investment. And if the tools aren't there in the business to show them the return of investment, there's only one person that gets the blame. Yeah. And that's you. Yeah. And that's it's not normally not the case. It's because there's a breakdown in communication throughout that, when that lead comes in, to actually get them into the business, and being able to ascertain where that breakdown is has always been the biggest challenge for you and many other agencies. And we're trying to fill that gap.
And you obviously started the business with Inquirybot in 2017, 18. You were generating lots of leads for, outside of clinical professions, for hospitality. You brought that into dentistry. And so tell us about the story of how, first of all, I guess how you ended up in dentistry, but also secondly, how Inquirybot maybe solved one problem but created another, or at least cast light on another problem.
Yeah. Inquirybot did it solved and created, like you said, it solved a big problem initially and created lots and lots of other little problems off the back of it. So we created Inquirybot to solve a challenge, which was converting website visitors into leads or customers. And this was, we started this in the hospitality sector. Co-founder Elliot runs a hotel and golf club up in the Northeast. He had the problem, he had live chat, but didn't have anyone there 24/7 to respond. So we thought, look, there's got to be a solution. Live chat is not a small to medium-sized business solution. It's a big corporate, and that's what people conditioned to using live chat. And then a contact form just doesn't work.
Static, yeah.
So we looked at creating Inquirybot, which was a more, I would say it was a more personal experience on the website. It was still a customized, but it was still a structured flow, but it improved the journey on the website, and it improved the conversion. But that opened up the problem that we generated 3, 4, 5 times the number of leads, and the business couldn't handle converting them. So we started trying to solve all these mini problems that were coming out. And for the hospitality side of things, it was fairly simple, putting a little automation together, to book online, things like that, and a pipeline like a Kanban board to just structure those leads and see where they are. That pretty much sorted that type of business and that type of industry. And actually still today, it's a great solution for it. We fell into the dental industry in 2020 when COVID happened.
Fine. Okay.
COVID happened. Hospitality closed down. Yeah. We were like, what do we do?
Yeah. And were you and your founders, co-founders, because you have 2 other co-founders who I met at the
John and Elliot. Yeah.
Were you all full time on the business at this point already, or?
We were full time, but not paying ourselves.
Okay, well, fine.
So we were using actually a white label solution to prove the concept, and then went away and developed our own. Launched it on April 1st, 2020, as we pretty much went into lockdown.
Wow.
And yeah, panic stations. But luckily, as I said, the industry that came out of that was the dental side, and we went onto a website called 11 Dental, first ever dental, and we had no idea about dental apart from going and getting a toothache or whatever. Had no idea. So we just had to learn. We had to get some people in and understand what that journey looked like, and quite quickly we realized, again, it was a brilliant solution for them because of the amount of leads that people that were coming onto the website with a challenge, a problem. The whole aesthetics of dental is really kicking off, and I think that was helped by the aesthetics industry. And we were seeing a massive upturn. In fact, a massive increase even versus the hospitality sector. But that problem that we talked about was opening up even more because of the marketing that dental was starting to do. Hotels don't really advertise that much. It's brand awareness, yes, but it's not targeted stuff on Facebook and Instagram. It's mainly website based. So the dental industry really opened our eyes at those different channels that needed to be managed, the speed in which they needed to respond, and automations and follow-ups. We started to build a Frankenstein system that just wasn't developed for dental practices and cosmetic clinics. It started opening up more problems than it was solving.
Okay, interesting. So you tried to solve the lead management problem by sort of adding additional features onto because as sort of an outsider, I've seen Inquirybot evolve, and then eventually I would hear that now there's like a sort of you have different pipeline stages, and you can manage the lead through, and I would see it sort of grow bit by bit, and then eventually Boxy came along. So at which point did you sort of decide, okay, we need to scale back Inquirybot and just, that remains a channel, as it were, a lead capture channel, and it does a good job. And I think you mentioned that actually only 1% of website inquiries typically convert.
Correct.
You can lift that up to 6 to 9% sometimes, which is incredible. I mean, that's 6 to 9x uplift, basically.
Huge, yeah.
But at which point did you then decide, okay, we're going to sort of simplify Inquirybot, keep it to one side, and we're building out a bespoke system to solve this very problem?
It was the back end of 2022, I believe, is when we took that. We'd been thinking about it, that the Inquirybot just wasn't the solution. It was a plug, and there wasn't really anything in the industry to help. There was some legacy software that was good, but it hadn't evolved. And with WhatsApp and I'd say the evolution of, I think with a lot of stuff coming from America, a lot of podcasts. I think it's driven a lot of these business owners to think more outside the box about their marketing, their analytics, where they can get more leads. TikTok was coming in, and all those types of things. I think it opened up the opportunity to do something new. So we'd been thinking about it, and we as a business wanted to use our own software for our own lead management.
Okay.
So we were feeling the pain of our customers. And we were recognizing, people were going, I want WhatsApp, I want Instagram, I want to be able to automate this, and this. And we're like, there's got to be a point where we say yes or no. And I was trying to say, as a salesperson, I was neither saying yes or no. I was saying maybe, potentially. And the development guys were just like, we cannot build upon this software. It's just not designed for it. It's going to fall over. So we took a step back, and actually it was literally just at the point where AI came out. So the year later, as we were developing this new solution, OpenAI came to fruition. So we were very, very lucky. I'd love to say it was we were incredibly lucky. Just as we were pushing and about to launch, that's where the evolution of AI really came out.
No, I remember you guys telling that story at the launch event. Having said that, though, I mean, still, even without AI, you would have had, you would have been able to build a multi-channel lead management system, basically, which is half the battle. It's like, okay, how can we integrate Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, contact forms, Inquirybot, email potentially? How do you pull all those channels together into one simple, fascinating story. So obviously we had the launch event, but it's already been, people are using Boxy today. And so what what does that evolution look like? Where are we at now with Boxy? How are practices using it, and what can they expect in the coming months?
So Boxy has now evolved into a dental-only product. So what we found with the industries that we're working with, so predominantly dental and cosmetic, is that as we started them really go deeper into the essentially the business side of their clinics, is that the integration with the PMS, or the patient management system.
Yeah.
You know, the Dentist, CareStack, SFD, Aronas of the world on dental, Paboo, Forest, etc. on cosmetic. It really opens up the platform. In fact, it makes the system 5 to 10 times more usable and useful. So as we started to delve deeper into this, we recognized that really when you're building a software, to make it more, I'd say, usable for the business, it needs to talk the language.
Yeah.
It needs to have the right integration so that they can really easily see what's going on. As soon as a dentist sees anything cosmetic and a cosmetic clinic sees anything dental, it puts doubt in their mind of what the system can do for them as their own business. So we've actually separated the two softwares.
Interesting. And is that something that you guys decided? Was that a design decision based on, user feedback, or how people were using features, or was it just a perception thing, or was it just a decision that you made as a business? Look, we need 2 different brands for 2 different markets.
We didn't think about it.
Okay.
We had one person say something, and it was just like a light bulb. It just went, you really should. It literally just said, I don't know why you haven't got 2 different brands for cosmetic and dental. Why haven't you? And it's always that why question. Whenever someone asks you a why, if you can't answer it, you need to go and find a way to go and answer that question. And we looked at each other and said, it makes sense. It allows us to then be go off in our own verticals.
Yeah.
Build a team, sales team, an onboarding team, build software and functionality specific to those industries. So Boxy is dental, Beie is now a cosmetic and aesthetic.
Interesting. And you launched Beie recently, I think. I saw, just a few weeks ago, you announced the launch of Beie. So how are the 2 different and how are the 2 similar? And obviously you've announced the introduction of the AI receptionist, which is in the pipeline. So how can aesthetic clinics, what can they expect, and what can dental clinics expect going forward? So
dental clinics, as I said, the Boxy platform is solely for them. So we've got now deep integration to all of the PMS systems, which just ties up that whole thing that I was talking about earlier about making that, having that bubble around the business. The AI receptionist will be first launched for the dental industry.
Okay.
And the whole point of the AI receptionist, and that just kind of goes back to a question you asked me earlier, is that about AI actually. We've got an ethos in the business to solve our customers' problems. Not all of the problems at once. We solve them bit by bit. AI was a big thing that we wanted to bring in. We call it sprinkle. We tried to sprinkle AI in the parts of the platform that are going to help businesses the most. The biggest challenge was actually contextualizing a lead. I think we said this last week, is that you're seeing lots of software come out on the market going, we've got an AI phone system, we've got an AI this and AI that. That's great, but what's the actual problem? Some of these products are actually solving problems that don't exist.
Yeah.
So we're trying to solve some of these key challenges, and by doing that, we've recognized that some of the biggest challenge to dental practices and clinics is that when that lead comes in, over from an ad, from a chatbot, from a web form, or from WhatsApp or Instagram, whatever it is, that patient is at its most optimal or kind of engaged or enthusiastic.
Absolutely.
At the point of inquiry.
Yeah.
So how can we use a receptionist, not the phone, because the phone, let people who do the phones, that's cool. But everything else, we train an AI receptionist to, based on the business, so it's ring fenced, it doesn't go off on a tangent, to try and do specific jobs, whether that's reschedule appointments, make appointment bookings, get feedback, upsell membership plans to NHS requests, things like that. These little problems, if they can be solved, we can take off 10% of the calls, 20% of the calls, 30% of the calls, and that's our plan over the next few months, is just to solve these little challenges in the dental industry to the point where the AI receptionist is doing 70 or 80% of the work of the reception team, so they can actually have real life conversations on the phone or in person to deliver that human side of the business. And that will naturally go on to the cosmetic side of things probably in the next 3 months.
Okay.
Cosmetics is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's very different. It's a very different market, which you can get onto.
It really is.
That's fascinating. And I think at the event you said specifically that a lot of inquiries come in after hours. I think At some other point, I've heard you say that around 66% of inquiries come in after hours. I don't know if that's a proprietary stat or something that you've observed from all the leads that you oversee.
Yeah.
Is that still? Is that about right?
In general, it's 46% in as a whole business.
Yep.
With the ads, we were seeing just over 60%.
Okay, interesting. Fine. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there, which is interesting. Okay, so in a normal dental practice environment, that lead will not have any sort of contact from the practice until a little bit after opening.
Yeah.
Usually, the treatment coordinator or receptionist would have to catch up on any other urgent matters, and then maybe 10:30 in the morning they would then pick up the phone and contact the lead. At which point they're at work or they're busy or whatever, or maybe they sort of, it's gone to the back of their mind. So how does the AI receptionist kind of bridge that gap? What does that look like?
So when that lead comes in, the AI receptionist will literally try and convert them at the point of source. So it will communicate if they've come in on an Instagram DM. It will carry that conversation on instantly via that channel. If they come in over the contact form, it will pop in. It will drop them an email or it'll drop them a WhatsApp, and try and pick up a channel in which that patient will then engage with. And it will once they're engaged, it will solve the job of whatever that patient wants to do. So if it's book a consultation, reschedule something, ask information about teeth whitening or Invisalign, whatever it is, it will do the right job of getting them to the point where they either convert, and if they don't, that's where we hand it back over to the human to try and do something in the clinic. But it'll try and solve the problem at source, or at least convert them at source.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And do you, I mean, this is more of a personal question rather than perhaps what the viewers might be interested in, but do you disclose that it's AI, or is that sort of up to the practice, or how do you position, this AI receptionist?
I think because it's sat within a chatbot on the website and within the practice, whatever channel.
Yeah.
With the website, 100%. I think it's natural. People still think there's live. It's like, I mean, we joked on the event last week, but it's true. People still think the thing's live, even though it's really clearly not.
Yeah.
I think there is I think if you try and dupe people, they get more frustrated that you've tried to dupe them. And it's the same with the AI voice bots.
Yeah.
If you say, I'm an AI voice bot, there's some people who are going to turn it off and switch off.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's up to them. But if you pretend it's a real person and then they realize that it's not, people get more frustrated.
Well, there's distrust then, right?
100%.
And do you want to start the relationship with your patients on that basis, basically?
Exactly. So no, I think it's important for us with this is that we do let the practice make their own minds up with it, but I think the kind of rule of thumb should be let the patient know.
Yeah, fine. So medical aesthetics. So obviously in 2020, you pivoted into the dental world. You talked about your first dental practice that you were working with and how you had to sort of upskill and understand that entire world. You expanded quite quickly in dentistry. I think, dentistry is quite a connected world. So I think when people are seeing, what their friends or competitors are using, they get curious and they start inquiring.
Yeah.
And so I think at some point you said you were working with over 700 practices. Maybe across both domains, I'm not sure. But how did you end up in medical aesthetics? Because as you said, that's a very different world once again. Perhaps not so different as hospitality and dentistry are, but still fairly different. And we have a similar and shared experience on that journey from dentistry into aesthetics. So what did you learn by going into medical aesthetics? How is it different? What challenges are unique to them that perhaps you didn't see coming?
Around the same time, we actually got our first client in medical aesthetics.
Okay.
And it was probably about the May 2020, but there's just, even though there's a crossover, there's such a huge difference between, you look at a dental practice, they're only going to be looking to promote 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 types of treatment, and it's very linear. It's very black and white. What you're looking for, to a degree, you've got a problem with your teeth, you've got wonky teeth, whatever. You've got a very a single line of solution. With medical aesthetics, it's a completely different ballgame. And coming from an industry that we have no idea about, I mean, dental, you kind of have an idea about because we've all got teeth and we've all had problems with our teeth in the past.
Yeah.
Talking about dermal fillers and anti-wrinkle injections and things like that, I mean, that is just a world that, especially coming with three blokes running a company. It was so far from being comfortable. It was crazy. So we did get our first customer. We in that year, and we've grown very, very. We tried to grow slowly, quick over time. Anyway, you said in the rapid fire that about scale and growing slowly. we'd never wanted to scale too quickly. We've just been so lucky that the product has been quite good and quite viral at the start that we were able to grow at a rate without having to do any marketing or anything like that. And that's just been, again, that's luck. With the aesthetic side of things, we've tried to just get a better and deeper understanding of the business before we do anything, and that's why it's taken us 5 years to actually launch Beie.
Yeah.
But we have got a better understanding of it. We've got the right people involved in the business.
Yeah.
I've got some great partnerships with some of the patient management systems out there.
Great.
So we're leaning on our customers. I mean, we've got a good 250, 300 clinics. So I'm not saying it's not like we're infancy in that side of things, but it's a massive learning curve for us, or has been, and we wanted to launch at the right time.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. I mean, I guess there's a lot of parallels because we went through a similar experience as we evolved from dentistry only to dentistry and medical aesthetics. There are a lot of parallels. There are a lot of differences. And as you rightly pointed out, I think the medical aesthetics market is way more fragmented in terms of treatment modalities. I think if you have a concern like acne scarring or whatever, there are probably 50 different ways of solving that problem. There's different ways of combining and stacking treatments that are unique. Even just the capital equipment and energy devices, like that entire market is there's many different types of lasers, there's many different types of body sculpting machines and so forth. And it's actually quite, and also I guess what I would add to that is that there's no real household brand names within medical aesthetics. I mean, the closest is maybe like Hydrofacial or Morpheus 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
Botox, I guess, is a brand technically.
Yeah.
Right? But people sort of think of it as a product.
Correct.
But that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
In dentistry, everyone knows what Invisalign is, or most people know, right? It's like a household name. And so consumer awareness is a lot lower, we find, in medical aesthetics, and people need a lot more hand-holding, educating, and so forth through that patient journey. Is that similar to what you've seen in terms of that, how patients need to be nurtured along that journey?
Yeah, and actually, right at the start, and Inquirybot, when we put Inquirybot on these websites, is that the majority of the leads were coming in 10, 11 o'clock in the evening. And that's because the point where people actually want to make an inquiry and have the kind of the guts to go and do it is when they've had a couple of drinks. We're seeing a huge amount of this happening, but then trying to get in touch with them the next day, it would go cold. Yeah. And it was because of that fear of the unknown, I think, of what the surgery or the aesthetics could provide to them, or what they're going to go through. I think there's a massive amount of education needs to be provided, and that's as much as the similarity in the fact that the speed in response is important. The types of patients that were coming in, there was a massive disparity on that. So we had to try and solve that. We had to try and make that whole nurturing sequence and process a lot more smoother and a lot more calmer, a lot more, I say educational, rather than here are the facts. It's very much kind of, we know what you're going through, we understand, and then just nurture them in a little bit more kind of a lighter way.
Yeah, I think what we're finding is that there's different ways of I guess organizing your website and your treatment list, and some people do it very much by treatment, and that tends to be more common in dentistry.
Yeah.
On medical aesthetics, it tends to sometimes be concern based, because then you okay, I have crow's feet, or I have whatever, acne scarring, and then you go in through the menu and then you see, okay, these are the treatment modalities that could help solve that problem. Was that kind of part of what? Did you have to redesign the flow to match that? Yeah,
100%. I mean, and actually, that helped us with dental, because we recognised that exactly what you've said there is that most dental practice websites is very much treatment based, but still, yes, we have an idea of what treatment we need. But if you go onto a website and you've got something, you don't know if you need a root canal, you don't know if you're composite bonding, things like that. So there's a very much this jargon that's on some websites does create confusion. So we did actually take the learnings from the cosmetic side of things, of that condition and concern led, and bring that into the dental side of things, which certainly helped. So that I've got whiter teeth, I've got a missing tooth, I need straighter teeth.
So it's more outcome based. And have you seen an uptick in conversion rates, engagement from
almost double?
Almost double.
Almost double.
What, by moving from treatment based to concern based or outcome based? Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's how humans are wired, right? When you have a problem, you seek a transformation. You want to solve that problem and you want to achieve a certain outcome. So that's really, really interesting. What about the business owners themselves? So, what differences have you found between dental practice owners versus aesthetic clinic owners, in terms of, you know, how commercially minded they are, in terms of, you know, growth aspirations, in terms of, you know, you name it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, from a dental side, I think in terms of aspirations, I think pretty much 90% of the people that we speak to are very, very focused on one thing, and that's maximizing their revenue. They want to maximize their marketing. They want to fill their white space.
Yeah.
And it's very much a one line of sight. Cosmetic side and the medical aesthetics is a little bit different. I found it's more. Yes, of course they want more revenue, but I would say there's a bit of a softer approach to that. They want to improve the patient experience to start with. It's not always about, right, we just want more revenue. It's about engaging people a little bit better. It's about making that initial, as soon as they come in, is that nice, really friendly conversation, that video that goes out to them about the clinic and so forth. It's more improving that pre-consultation or pre-appointment status a lot better, and that was the main focus that we saw, the difference. Yes, they're both industries, the focus is generating more business.
Yeah,
it has to be. The difference being is that the cosmetic was very much improving that patient experience, rather than dental was like just getting them in the chair.
Revenue. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so do you think the medical aesthetic industry more about keeping up appearances, a little bit of vanity, a little bit of like creating a bougie experience for patients, and kind of looking the part? Is it more about that rather than about hard facts, numbers? This is the patient journey. These are the stages. This is my drop off. These are the conversion rates. This is the revenue I'm generating.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think, and I'm speaking from not a huge amount of experience in the cosmetic space, and I don't want to pretend to be an expert, but you know, from a this clinics popping up all over the place. The regulation side of things around delivering certain treatments is not necessarily like dental. So I think there's almost this education part where when someone inquires, they want to showcase that they are reputable. They're going to give them a brilliant experience. They're going to give them a fantastic service. They're going to look like X after it. I think there's recognition that you need to pre-sell the sale in cosmetic, rather than in dental.
Just get them in.
Get them in.
We'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, it's really interesting. So between Beie and Boxy, where, you know, you've done a huge part in terms of automating a large chunk of the patient journey, and it's almost the part of the patient journey that sometimes clinic owners forget even exists, because it's everything that happens before someone comes in. And we always think, oh, patient journey starts when they come through the front door, but actually patient journey starts in the mind of the patient months or years before they inquire.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just, how do they get to you online and then physically and so forth. So you're automating and I guess sort of smoothening that digital patient journey. You're helping the practice reduce the friction along that patient journey. You're integrating into the practice management software, whether that's dental, you know, CareStack, Dentally, etc., or aesthetics, it's, you know, Forest, Sonoti, Fresh, or whatever, Pabu. I know you do a lot of work with Pabu. So what's the end game? I mean, how far are you going to take this? And what's kind of your aspirational vision for the future? Do you see yourselves playing a role in actually assisting people with the consultation, and then converting someone to treatment, and then retention, and driving advocacy on the other end? How do you see yourself being part of that journey going forward?
You've hit the nail on the head. The bit in the middle, which is the experience, we will always stay well clear of. It's the pre and post. So it's that experience. Now, I'm going to go back a little step. You know, this automating the patient journey, it's very, very important. I think there's this I'd say confusion on what automation is. There's business owners that think automation takes over and it's just going to run. So that lead comes in and the system is going to take them through. The AI receptionist will do a lot of that. The current Boxy system, automation is there to keep front of mind for the patient. It's not to replace a human. It's not to do the full follow-up system. It's still a linear automation. It's still, a lead comes in, they haven't responded, we're going to keep nurturing them. It's not going to continue responding dynamically to them if they message us and say, oh, what's the price again? It's not going to respond to that. The AI receptionist will. Right now, Boxy is there. The automation is there to assist the team members where they're at the poorest, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lead comes in, it will respond contextually to them. It then goes, right, staff member, give them a call, try and convert them on the phone. If they don't convert, we're just going to keep nurturing them in the right way. And that's the whole point of automation. It's there to assist the human doing their thing, doing the things that they should do the best, which is on the phone and in person.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The misconception of automation is not there to fully automate your journey. The AI receptionist will, and that's where we anticipate it going in the very, very short term to do that and even follow up for them. The most recent functionality that we launched was to solve the challenge with after consultation or after treatment.
Yeah.
I've spoken about this a lot at shows, actually, is that there's this drop-off of kind of communication with existing patients. Yeah. Everyone's on the search for new patients.
Yeah.
And this, most of it's like you've got thousands of patients sitting there that have been into your practice over the last 3, 4, 5 years, and they're just ignored. People assume, or these practices assume, that those patients are theirs for life, whereas they're not. They're elite. As soon as they walk out that door after having their hygiene treatment or their first anti-wrinkle injection, they're anyone's again.
Yeah.
Because they will be on the website and they'll be searching for better offers. They'll be searching for different options. They'll see something on Instagram. So we've tried to solve that by, as soon as that treatment that patient completes, by integrating with the PMSs, brings that back into us. We go, right, okay, let's broadcast an offer to them with this. Let's try and get them in for a treatment. Let's try and get them in. We're not getting involved in the recalls. That's the PMS. That's the patient management system. But that's, as soon as the treatment is complete, how you upsell back to that patient through membership plans and things like that. That's what we're solving now. So we're trying to, that's that whole 360 circle. And that's where we can, I think in the long term, we want to make sure that we're focused on what we do best.
I mean, I think you're solving a really interesting problem, because I think it's always significantly cheaper to market to existing patients than it is to acquire new ones, right? And that's a well-oiled stat that's kind of widely accepted. Very few people do it well, I think, in terms of, a lot of practices don't know how to market to their existing patient base. They think it's too complicated. They're worried about GDPR. They don't want to disturb them. There's this sort of thing that, they'll come to us when, they need us. But also there's a lot of friction. Like it's a real faff to export a patient list from your PMS and then figure out, who's like still active, who's not, like who's come in recently and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's a clear gap there, and some people will, do it themselves with MailChimp or whatever, but still it's not seamless. There's room for error. And I think the more friction there is in doing that, the more inertia you have to overcome to do it, the less likely a busy practice will actually get around to doing it. It's something that probably everyone wants to do and knows they should do, but then they actually never get around to doing it just because it's a bit of a faff.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, what people think, it feels like it falls into the marketing bucket.
Yeah.
Whereas, yes, it is to a degree, because you need your expertise to be able to build these types of things, but it should be simple. It should be, again, this is all about the integration of the patient management system. This is what enables these types of platforms that we've got, is if we know someone's completed their treatment on a particular treatment, how can we get them into an audience to be able to target, rather than sending a newsletter to 10,000 people, which has absolutely no effect, not no effect, but it doesn't have the desired effect.
Yeah.
Is target people with the right offer, the right treatment at the right time, based on what their previous experience was. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do with it.
I mean, that's great. So we've talked about we've talked about post. Let's look at the consultation. I mean, you sort of said that's for the practice to handle, that's for the PMS system to support, obviously. What about the bit immediately after the consultation? Do you see yourself helping to kind of stay in front of the person if they didn't go ahead? And how does that, because I mean, yesterday I got a phone call from a practice and they were saying, Derek, what do you think? After our consultations, we don't bother them on the same day. We let them go away, sleep on it. We contact them the next day. If they don't pick up, we then, we call them. If they don't pick up, we send them a message and an email, and we sort of send them the treatment plan again. How often should we try after that? How many times? We want to stay in front of them. We don't want to badger them. What should I do? And that was the question. So there's clearly a gap there, because a lot of people will say, oh, come in for the consult. And you spoke earlier about dentistry being very much about getting people in the chair, get people in, and we'll take care of the rest. Are practices missing a trick on the bit immediately after the consult? And how do you see yourself plugging that gap?
It's a big problem, the patient is not a patient at the end of the day. They're still in sale, and in fact they're right at the end of the sales process, and that's where you need to be at your best. And dentists who are delivering that, whether it's a TCO consult or a dentist consult, they're busy, so they're not going to be able to follow up. And I actually spoke to a big group the other week that said that if someone doesn't accept their treatment plan after 30 days, they get rid of it.
Yeah.
And we know that you and I know that people don't make decisions instantly. They need to be helped to make that decision, or they need to be paid.
Yeah.
We've all done it. My Amazon basket's full until the first of every month, and then I go mad and spend all my wages. That's how people work. They need encouragement, and there will be a point in their that month or 2 months after where they make that decision on the fly. It's emotional, isn't it? All those decisions are emotional, especially when you're spending that kind of money. So yes, we do want to help that. Now it's difficult because this type of data, getting that data from the patient management system is very difficult, and the patient management systems do want to handle and take hold of that. So it's a handoff, really.
Yeah.
We are doing it. We've been working closely with some of the PMSs and some big groups to do this within Boxley. So within the next couple of months, we'll have that in there.
Yeah, your technical colleague is like a couple of months. Not saying that.
Yeah.
It depends when this airs as well, to be fair. So you might have some leeway.
Thanks.
Very good. No, I mean that's fascinating, because that is a big challenge, as I've just described. That practice that called me yesterday about that very very subject. There's a practice we work with, and we've worked with them for a long time, since about 2018, I think. And there was a patient who inquired in like 2021 or 2020, something like that. They didn't go ahead. They either came in for a consult or they didn't. I can't remember. But they didn't go ahead. And then the practice re-engaged them with a marketing campaign. And 3 years later, almost to the day, they came in and they converted and they had Invisalign treatment done. 3 years, which is wild. So obviously they consented to marketing and stuff, but which shows that it's just so powerful, because in that moment, in that month, when that inquiries come through, obviously there's no ROI there, right? And you've spent the marketing money, you spent the ad budget, and you have a lead and they didn't convert. 3 years later, actually that month could have been actually a very good month for you.
Yeah.
And so it also just, quite often a lot of practices will have a very short-termist view on marketing generally, and they'll look at ROI on a very short-term basis. They don't forget about, brand awareness and how that compounds over time when you're actively marketing. Even just looking at the leads, a lot of practices will have a very short-term view and will be very, I guess, quite reactive to very short-term trends. So for example, we're now in October as this is being filmed. This summer was fairly quiet, I think, in the dental. I don't know if you've noticed that but a lot of our practices say, actually, you know what, it's been one of the quieter summers in the last sort of 5-10 years. And then a lot of practices are quite reactive then and think, oh, actually, wow, the world is collapsing around me. But it's only 2 or 3 months and then now things are picking up again. So yeah, I think systems like yours are needed to help practice owners sort of zoom out and look beyond the short-term trends and think, actually, you know what kind of ROI is my marketing driving on a longer term?
Yeah.
And being able to actually, reflect that as well in the data.
I think there's this, and this is the whether it's the world we live in now, whether it's the whole social media, I'm not 100% sure, but there's this need for instant gratification in everything. And when instant gratification is important with responding to patients when they're communicating with you, that's great, but it's not, their decision is not instant. And I think it's the same with our customers. We love them, obviously, but they want instant return on investment. They want instant results. And I think there's this understanding that results do compound over time. We had one the other day, just on that subject, is that we had a customer that a prospect that came to us 2 years ago. I've had conversation with them, keep dropping them messages. They say, yeah, a couple of months. I've stayed on top of them, not bugging them, not being annoying, just dropping the odd message here and there. Not a long, there's this, everyone wants to send this great big long WhatsApp or long email with all these fancy, it's not, it's just as simple. How are you doing? Have you made a decision yet? Or are you still interested? Can we grab a call? Got a new feature out. They finally converted after over 2.5 years the other day.
Great, yeah, amazing.
And this is the thing. It's not about marketing to them. It's just being personal. But these businesses or these individuals have inquired with you, and there's this. We see it all the time. It's like, I don't want to send too many automations. I just don't want to bug them.
Yeah.
But that patient inquired with you. They have a need, and they haven't had that need resolved. They haven't had that need kind of sorted yet. You can communicate.
Yeah.
There's not a problem. It's just how we do it. If it looks generic, if it looks bot-like, that's where people get pissed off.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If I'm honest.
Yeah. Something similar happened a couple of months ago between a practice and patients. So obviously that was a B2B example, but we sort of spoke to the principal and said, look, this is the follow-up blueprint. And then we spoke to the team about, how do we actually, follow our recommendations and the scripts and the cadence and all that kind of stuff. And so we spoke to the reception team, spoke to the treatment coordinator, and sent them on their way and say, okay, off we go. Then a few months rolled by, and then we sort of did a quarterly business review with them, see, okay, where are we going? What's the conversion looking like? Are you updating them on the pipeline? How's it going? What are the gaps and so forth? They weren't really seeing the ROI that they had hoped for. So we're like, okay, fine, let's open the bonnet, let's scratch a little under the surface and figure out what's going on. Now, the principal found out that the front of house team and treatment coordinator were only following up once. They just tried to ring the patient, didn't pick up, send them an email. Right, they'll contact us if they're ready. That was not our advice, obviously. And so what ended up happening was the principal was frustrated with their team and said, look, like that was not, we're spending money on Ignite, we're spending money on the ads, we want to get the most out of it. Like, can't just ring them once. So then anyway, the TCO and reception team, reception desks are busy places, right? Treatment coordinators are busy. This is not me throwing them under the bus. It's also up to the principal to resource them and make time and space, right? So I'm not pointing fingers. Anyway, they rang all the leads again, multiple times until they'd spoken to the majority of people. 10 people out of the list of inquiries, 10 people had gone and had clear aligners elsewhere.
Really?
Yeah. By that time. And so, follow-up lead nurturing is such a big opportunity to solve. And there are different ways to solve it.
Yep.
You could do it manually, you could automate it, you could have a hybrid system, but it's just it's also a very lucrative thing to solve because it actually offers a better patient experience. It saves people time and it drives ROI if it's done well.
100%. And, like you said, this follow-up, you don't need to have a system like Boxly. You can do follow-up workflows and processes using your diary, using your emails. It's not a necessity. We just assist you and make your lives a little bit easier. But that follow-up process is so important because a patient is not ready to decide instantly. They've just got that need, and that's what we need to solve their needs, and that's all they come to a practice for. So yeah, when you look at the analytics around this, and this is why reporting a system, any system, if you've got the reporting and you've got the analytics to show and support, marketing and the return that they're getting, and why they should be doing something. When you're a dad and a business owner, when are you most available on the phone? Because it's certainly not 9 to 5.
Never.
Never. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, the times when I'm most available, and my wife and anyone else, is just before the start of work.
Yeah.
And I've dropped the kids off probably in that half an hour between 8:30 and 9.
Yeah.
And then 5 and 5:30 or 5:30. I wish I did 9 to 5, but those kind of gaps.
Yeah.
Before we've sat down to dinner.
Yeah. Sure.
It is so important.
Yeah.
Because that's the point where your phone is free. You're not working. A lot of the audience listening are not working. That's when you can grab people.
Yeah.
Or at lunch.
Yeah.
And that's when businesses are closed.
You're right, because when it comes to having to call the business to get something done, let's say you need a plumber or gas engineer or whatever, a lot of people have to sort of make a deliberate attempt to like space out time in the diary, be like, right, at 12:30, I'm going to ring this, plumber or whatever.
Yeah.
If people are trying to call you, if the plumber is trying to call you back, chances are, and it's not even just like it's not that the patient is rude and they're ignoring you. It's just that I think they've context switched. and they're working on something else.
Yeah.
And something else is the priority at that point in time. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. You're onboarding this clinic that you've been speaking to for 2.5 years. What does success look like for you, for them? So for you on their behalf, is it time saved? Is it a better patient experience? Is it an ROI? Is it lower costs? What's kind of what does success, what would be the kind of the North Star KPI for you guys?
I mean, it's very, it obviously does depend on the customer. They'll come to us with their driver. Time efficiency is, we all say you can't put value on time, and it's very difficult to quantify the saving of time.
Yeah.
But so it's got to be a return on investment. A lot of the driver is around the marketing side of things, because that's what opens up the kind of, I think, with business like yourself, where you're going, right, you're dropping these leads in and having real conversations with them and saying, okay, what's your return on investment? This is what's educating people. And they're then thinking, going, okay, well, I need a system to manage this. So the marketing side of things is opening up the story loop for us, which then opens up it's all about revenue, but that they kind of, we then try to explain about the time efficiency, the patient experience, and they're getting it almost as an add-on or a byproduct of the revenue. But the more businesses are thinking about marketing, the more that opens up the benefits of our software. So to us, the return on investment is, or either marketing return on investment or the growth of the business is what we want to show them, but secretly it's the time saving that we know is the most valuable.
Yeah, interesting.
And we want to show them that.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Because actually, if you had to do all those touch points manually, how much time would it take? How many reception teams would you have had how many members on the team would you need to have dedicated to that, basically, which is huge. So, but yeah, no, I think that the highlighting the ROI and the attribution around that, I think is a huge part of the gap there. Selfishly, from a marketing agency point of view, we don't always get visibility over that because, well, we don't always have access to their PMS.
No, absolutely.
We rarely do, to be honest. And so, having said that, not even every single PMS is sort of open architecture where we can just integrate and figure out what's going on. And so, whilst we can see maybe how many people made it in for a consultation, that's probably as far as our visibility goes. And after that, it's like, okay, we rely on practices to report back to us. And in some instances, that's easier when we're running open days and it's very dedicated, specific campaigns for specific events with specific time boundaries around it. It's very easy for people to report back, oh, we got 10 cases or 12 cases or whatever. So then great, our ROI attribution is easy, which is why, part of the reason we're so known for our open days is because we have good ROI attribution for them. And we can say, look, they work.
Yeah, they do.
That's a lot harder for ongoing campaigns when the leads are flowing in with, multiple channels at the same time. And it just so happened that this week there was a client and they were like, oh, look, can you just help us figure out like how we attribute ROI back to you? And we're like, okay, look, just give us a login to your Dentally and we'll have a look. And so they started with us in the beginning of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And you know them, and I won't mention them, but you'll know them. And we did a quick reconciliation between every lead we generated for them and everyone in their Dentally who, in terms of like how much had been paid on their patients' accounts. And it was 935,000 over the course of what, two-ish years, 2.5 years.
Wow.
I was pleasantly surprised. Practice owner had no idea. Right. And that was just that penny drop moment that was like, wow, okay, fine, we've really moved the needle. And we were then able to work backwards from there. It's like, okay, how much are we spending every month? What's the ROI? Is it sort of 5x? Are we getting 6x, 10x, whatever? Where does it sit? And then you can make better decisions based on, well, what are we going to invest in? Are we going to double down on this campaign or that campaign?
Yeah.
So yeah, that connecting, that's a huge piece. And that's just one example of one PMS, right? But then you've got 5-6 PMS systems in dental. In aesthetics, you have, another half a dozen.
Yeah.
So it's a huge problem to solve, basically, but well worth solving.
It is, and you've hit the nail on the head there. And attributing the impact that you're having, because the patient management systems aren't lead managed. They don't necessarily care about the originating source. They just want to make, as soon as that patient books, make that experience brilliant. So, and that's essentially the challenge we're trying to solve. By having that deep integration, we can say, okay, patient management system, you do what you're doing best. you continue doing that, but we're just going to get the data back. So if we know where those leads have come from, we know that it's come from a Facebook lead ad or the particular Facebook lead ad, particular Google ad that's come in, and they've had an appointment. Let's say they've had a £65 appointment, but they've gone on to have an Invisalign. We're feeding back the journey that patient's gone on and their lifetime value, but all feeding back to the originating source.
Yeah.
So that every business can say, and I know you've had this, is that the patient at the end of the business at the end of the month says, okay, we've had 100 leads, but we've only generated 20 £65 appointments. The return on investment isn't great. Be like, okay, well, just wait. Wait for those conversations, wait for those 2 or 3 months, and then see what happens. It's compounding, like you said. And it is all about patience, but it's having the data.
Yeah.
And if the patient management system isn't talking to the lead management system, isn't talking to the marketing, isn't talking to the ads, it's finger in the air.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's see what else.
Sounds like I think we were venting.
Yeah, no. It's. I mean, this is a shared problem, and it's a problem between, that everyone has to collaborate to solve this problem to get like a single view, basically. Well, I mean, what's been your biggest lesson in this journey of yours in terms of, as a product, the problem you're trying to solve? There's competition in the market. There's other platforms that are on the fringes of what you do. There's some functionality overlap. In dental, obviously, we have Dengro, Robo, and other platforms. Everyone does it slightly differently.
Yeah.
But it is, I guess, a tough market. What has been your sort of toughest moment and biggest lesson, I guess, from your journey so far?
I think there's two main lessons that I've probably learned. The first one is that it's not going to fit everyone, and not everyone's going to be happy about it. We've got a big development team, and we are pushing features, but sometimes too many features scares the life out of people, and they don't use it. You're then creating a software that people are scared of using because it's got so much to it. I want a funny example on this. I think this is the dental industry in general, but you go away. We spent months creating a platform for multi-location businesses.
Yeah, that's quite complex.
DSOs and corporates, and we went away, spoke to a load of people, developed it, showed them. I jumped onto a demo with them, and went, look, we've nailed it. This is great. Went through, and the person at the end of it, and they know who they are if they're listening to this. They went, it looks good, but can it do this? And we're like, oh, but you didn't tell us that you wanted that, and we didn't think about it. And then you like, it's this moment where you, like, the blood drains from my face, and I'm trying to hold like a smile, but I'm thinking, like, there are so many kind of permutations to every business. Some businesses, especially DSOs, they calculate commission on the invoice, not on when it's paid.
Yeah.
So feeding that back for sales team members of how much commissions that they owe, that they need to be paid, is different based on the DSO, based on the group, and there's just so many different permutations. And I think, features are never complete, and the software is never done.
No.
So I think that was, I think it was naive of us to think that, but coming from we're not tech-led, we're founder-led. And these are big learning curves that we had. The other thing is, it's kind of similar to that, but it's when people do leave. As a founder, it hurts.
Yeah.
It really hurts.
Yeah.
And you feel it, and you wonder why have you gone there? Why have you made this? But again, it all comes back to understanding that even competitors in the market, it's good. It's good for us. We like that there are other businesses. If it was just us, we probably wouldn't be pushing as hard as we are and developing the features that we are. I think it's important. Again, and we spoke about this in the past, is that businesses should talk with one another. We speak with Agilio just bought Dengro. We speak to Agilio guys. We know Dengro guys, the great guys. We speak with them. And I think there should be more of this. There should be more collaboration between these types of businesses, because actually we could feed off one another and actually make everyone's life easier. Yeah,
you're solving common problems, basically. Yeah. Have you ever? So you're heavily invested in the dental industry, clearly, and Boxly has now become a dental specific platform. And you made that quite clear also at the launch event that you guys ran last week, which was great. Do you ever worry that you are sort of splitting attention and resources by trying to straddle both aesthetics as well as dentistry? I mean, I know you've obviously got two different value propositions now.
Yeah.
But that's also two tech stacks potentially. I mean, there might be some commonality, obviously, but that's two propositions, two brands, two tech stacks, two, have you ever worried about how that might sort of impact agility and speed at which you move and how you respond?
Absolutely. Being completely candid, the team that are with in dental right now are going to stay in dental. We are growing the aesthetic side of things, bringing in developers purely for Beie, and the from a not leadership perspective, but people who are managing that side of the brand, supporting it, things like that. We're having a completely separate team, so we're not actually taking anyone away. We're just growing that brand completely separately.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a fear of that, 100%, because I mean I can barely split my time right now as it is. So yes, it was something that we thought about, and we're actually putting a lot of resource into that separately.
I mean, was there anything else that you wanted to tell the world about Boxly, Beie, Inquirybot, and your journey going forward and what to expect?
Gosh, I'm trying to think now. You've put me on the spot. I think it's important to talk about how we recognize. I think this going back to not just the competition in our market, but actually everyone that surrounds it. From your perspective, is that it's very easy for software companies to be very insular in how they think.
Yeah.
You listen to some customers and go, okay, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to start doing pieces of other elements. If we hear, it's very easy to get some feedback and go, our marketing's not working, or do you know what, we need to improve our feedback loops, and we need to do so. We want people to take pictures of their smile, and we need to augment it and things like that.
Yeah.
It's very easy as a software company to go, oh, I can generate some revenue.
Yeah.
Should we do it? So staying in that lane is important, and that relates to, I think, multiple parts of the funnel. Is that we want to get closer to the agencies, the marketing agencies, and talking to you like we have done, to understand where your pain points are. What can be improved so that you can have better visibility of your ads, whether that's on a central dashboard where you've got kind of limited visibility of the leads sitting in your client, but you can go, right, you've done this. This is where you're dropping off. Almost like health scores type of thing.
Yeah.
Same with the PMS, is that there's a lot of, and I'm going to say whether I should say this, I'm not sure, but there's this dystopia around SMSs. We know SMSs are expensive, and do they work? There's a question whether they work from a transactional standpoint. Does it need to bring a WhatsApp? Is there a different way of doing recalls? Is there a more improved way of doing recalls? People are asking us to do that. Do we step into that market, that side? We don't want to. It's making sure that we're doing the right thing. So we want to make sure we're building the right partnerships with the right people to grow out, not just grow our brand, but essentially make our customers' lives easier.
Yeah.
And I think that was the mantra of our business when we started off. Everyone wants to make money. We want to make our customers happy, which will make us happy. It sounds really cheesy, but that's genuinely what we want to do.
Yeah. I guess it's just finding that balance, right? Because I guess Inquirybot evolved into sort of a Frankenstein, I think, as you called it. So it's trying to find a balance between, well, actually, how do you stay within your lane and but still plug the gaps with other partners in the market?
100%.
Have you ever worried about, PMS platforms? Because there's a big ecosystem, right, in aesthetics and in dental, obviously. Have you ever worried about them sort of encroaching on the more CRM-y type aspect of what you do? Because the two are joined very well, but it's also a natural next step for a big player to come in, basically.
They've done it already, and we know Pavoo's got their own vision and own lead management side of things. I think PMSs have done it, tried to do it in the dental industry, and just not had the ability to do it. But they've only done it because there hasn't been a solution out there.
Yeah.
So we are, I mean, by I think almost authority and being able to provide the right service, it will almost negate them needing to do it. But there's always an opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah.
If they see value in something. And again, that's just making sure that, I think from our side, being totally selfish, if we know that we've got the best products in the market, and work with them and partner with them and make sure that their customers are getting the right experience, they won't need to do it.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Good. Final couple of questions. So what is the most unexpected or funny interaction that you've seen between a patient and a chatbot, or even a customer in the hospitality side and a chatbot? There's one story which you told, which was great, but you can tell that one, or if there's another one, something which is outrageous or weird or wonderful, just any crazy story.
I've got two, and one was actually our fault. that it did this, and it wasn't necessarily the patient interacting; it was actually our chatbot. But the first one I'll say about the hospitality industry, golf actually, it was actually in our first year that we developed it. So chatbots were quite new at that point from an automated standpoint, and the golf industry traditionally they're 70, 80-year-old men. In the clubhouse, and as they do, and we had someone come on the chatbot regularly.
Oh wow, regularly, okay.
Flirting with the chatbot called Chloe, thinking it was a real person, and he would come into the clubhouse and go, "Where's Chloe? Is she here today?" And they're like, "She's not real," and he just didn't believe them.
Really?
And you've seen the chat Inquirybot. It's yes, it's automated, but it's not real.
No, I mean it doesn't take much to realize.
No,
it's not real. Yeah.
But someone of that age genuinely thought it was a real person and just kept on flirting with it. Or the internet would go and you come back on and it would say, "Oh, sorry, I lost my connection there. How are things?" And it was really funny. And we used to see these transcriptions come through and just think, "Oh, it's good fun."
Poor guy.
Yeah.
So he never got to meet Chloe.
He never got to meet Chloe, poor thing. He was just getting teased.
I mean, he would have been seriously catfished if it was actually you on the other end.
Really catfished, yeah, absolutely, 100%. The other one was again in our early phases. We had a customer that was it was a kind of I don't know how to say it, Derek. It was
already my favorite story.
Yeah,
already my favorite story.
So within the cosmetic industry, this clinic had lots of different procedures that they could have. One of them was in the mid area, which rejuvenation for females particularly. And as the chatbot went through and asked them what their challenge was and what their concern was, and it was this, and it asked them some really nice questions. Would you like to book a consultation? No, not right now. Can I have a call back? Yes. The next question was, would you mind uploading a picture of your problem so we could get a better understanding? And we're like, we made a little bit of a mistake on it. And obviously it just ended. Yeah. The conversation ended. But we had a message come from our customer going, "We really shouldn't be asking this question for that type." Luckily, they didn't upload anything, but I can just imagine if they tried to.
Oh,
it'd be
God.
quite funny.
That's hilarious.
It was something to learn.
I mean, if I've learned anything from working with medical clinics and medical aesthetic clinics, is that there's no shortage of people who are willing to share pictures of problem areas. Yeah. I thought, and somehow when it comes to anything healthcare related, people just open up.
Yeah.
Even on the phone. Like sometimes there's call recordings that we hear or whatever, and it's like, wow, really? Like you don't even know who you're talking to, and you've just given them, a whole host of private and personal information about your situation.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. But that's a brilliant one. Okay.
Well, just on that actually, and I think it's a similar thing with the chatbot because, and this again, I think it's this disassociation with a human being to a degree when you're on the phone. Yeah. Because you can't see them, they can't see you. One of our most successful chatbots was for a clinical psychologist for I think it was a relationship psychologist or something like that, and they used the chatbot to have that initial consultation, but that conversation to understand, and they were saying that the level of detail that would come out of the person that was inquiring compared to them in person was incredible. Oh, wow. They opened up, they explained their problem, whereas when you're facing someone, it takes 2 or 3 sessions for you to gain trust and say that, whereas talking to a dumb chatbot about your problem is a little bit more, and people just found it a little bit more easier to let go and tell the problem.
That's really interesting.
It's really strange, but yeah. Luckily, no pictures of genitalia though.
Yeah. And no before and afters either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's a great story. Yeah, really, really fascinating. Yeah, we had we ran a campaign for a bariatric surgeon, and they placed gastric balloons as an alternative to gastric bypass for weight loss primarily. And on this one occasion, we actually agreed to, because it was a new campaign for us, we agreed to actually follow up the leads on behalf of the clinic.
Oh, wow.
We're really busy. And we're like, look, we'll just roll up our sleeves and we'll get to know that market and those patients and their concerns. And people were very open about, eating disorders and X, Y, and Z.
Wow.
I've had surgery on this and that. And we were really surprised at how open people are. But that's really interesting. Yeah, very interesting story. We're going to keep that little blooper in there. Have you fumbling around?
Yes. I've never dolphined so much in my life at that point.
Brilliant. Now, last question is one that we always ask. Is the patient always right?
It's a really Good question. I think the patient's feelings is always right. What they feel, we can't change what they're feeling. And I think with whatever ever conversation that we're in with a patient, however wrong you may think they are about what they're looking for, their feelings are always valid. And so I'd say, yeah, they are. But the solution for them, that's where the clinic comes in. The understanding of what that solution, turning that problem into the right solution. So I think, again, it's almost like I'm sitting on the fence. All I'm saying is that the patient's feelings are always right and always valid. And as long as we know that, we can get the patient to the right decision in the end.
Yeah, well, that's a great take. Yeah, good. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your journey with us and giving some really useful insights for practice owners and clinic owners who might be watching this. So yeah, really appreciate it. And until next time.
Thanks for having me.
Love hearing the real stories behind the aesthetics, medical and dental industries? Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Patient Is Always Right for exclusive content. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to watch the full episodes on YouTube. Hit follow, subscribe, and stay tuned.